Hello everyone, this is Rita Holmes, independent demonstrator with Stampin Up, and I am going to be bringing you a video tonight on a stamping technique, and I hope you all enjoy it. I'm just setting up my iPad to make sure that I have you all in screen, so just making sure all of that is done. And like I said, I am going to be bringing you a video, and for right now though, if you guys wouldn't mind to hit the share button, or give me a thumbs up if you like my video when we're done, or a thumbs down with a reason why in my comments. I would really appreciate it. I do want to remind you that I do have a Facebook group, Stamp Crazy VIP, and that is where I do a video every Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock, and it's the same cards, but in the files over there I do have PDFs there that you can print off. You can go join that group anytime just to get the PDFs if you would like to. I would like for you to be able to do that. I have like probably 70, 80 at least videos on there, so, and there's PDFs to all of them, or to 99% of them, I will say. So you are more than welcome to jump on over there if you have Facebook, and again, it's Stamp Crazy VIP. If you see something that I'm doing and you would like to place an order, I would like for you to go to my Stampin' Up store, and you can order from there, and that's if you don't already have a demonstrator. I would love to be that demonstrator for you. And also, if you're thinking about joining Stampin' Up, we have a great deal for $99 right now that you get over $125 worth of stamping products, plus you get to pick out a free bundle that you would like, which would be like a stamp set with a coordinating die set. So you get that and stuff, and I would really be interested in talking to you about that if you would like to join my team. So anyway, like I said, I do have my PDF right here, and you can jump on over and get that at the Facebook group. It is already up in the files. And we are going to do, it's called partial die cutting, and that's where you can see on this is the card I'm going to be doing. And we have a partial die cut right here. And I'm going to show you how to make this card. Here's a different one I did, and I just did with the coloring, but I partial die cut it also. And I brought a little bit of the stamp into the inside, like I always like to do. Bring my inside to, or my outside to my inside for a finished card. So let's get started. Like I said, this is our sample we're going to be doing, and we're going to be using the textile embossing folder, the Pretty Pumpkins stamp set with the pumpkin dies, which are right here. We'll be using, well, I have the die over here because I used it already this morning, and I think I already lost the poor thing. Here it is. So we'll be using the die with that, and which is right here. We'll be using that. We're going to be using the paper that is called Beauty of the Earth, and I'm going to be using, right there's what the strip looks like. I'll show you what the piece looks like. Is this piece right here. And on the other pumpkin card I used this green, which is really variegated. It's very pretty, but I actually bought this because I like this, because I think it looks like camouflage, and I think it'd be great for men's cards. So that was my reasoning for buying the paper, because I just love that. And it has a lot of other good paper in it. That's wood grain on the back. There's some other variegations, and it looks like trees on the back of that one. And then we have this that has some of the blue in it with a blue background. Same here with the leaves with another blue background, and then this is the one that you see that I'm using, and then this is the one that's got the green that's on the other card, the variegated green. So there you go. That is what all of that is. And So we are going to get started on our card. I forgot to clean my stamp off this afternoon, so it's going to have to be clean before we can start, because we're going to be using Versamark. So let's go. We also are going to be doing some embossing, which I don't do a lot of. I like it, but I don't do a lot of it. And I don't even have a reason why I don't do a lot of it. So anyway, here's what all we're going to be using today. We've got a piece of cardstock cinnamon ciders cut 4 1/4 by 11, and I'm just going to fold that over and crease it really well. And you know what? I don't have any gold thread that I had on this one. I may put it on without the gold thread. I don't have any more in here. It's actually a last year's thread that I used, and I think I might have used it all. Oh well. That's okay too. We'll just do a variation over here. Then what I've got is early espresso that's 2 7/8 by 5 1/2, and cinnamon cider that's 2 3/4 by 5 1/2. I am going to go ahead and glue these two together because I want them to be glued really good, because I am going to be using the die cutting machine and stuff on it. So let's go ahead and then I'm going to add a lot of glue in here. Not thick, I'm going to have it thin, but I just want it to cover it. So we're going to take that and we're going to match this up here. And I like to use my glue because I like to move it around my piece of cardstock. Okay, then I'm going to turn it over and I'm just going to rub a little bit. Alright, there we go. Okay, now what we are going to do is I'm going to take my card. I have a 1/2 inch piece by 5 1/2 inches that will go right here. I'm going to go ahead and adhere that to the front of my card. Didn't mean for that to happen. Jumped out of my hand. I'm going to leave just a little bit of border over there of the cinnamon cider that you can see. I like the look of that. And I, of course, you know me and my glue eraser. Where I just got glue on that, I'm going to get it off. I don't know what I would do without this thing. Absolutely love it. It takes glue off like no other. And that's where my finger caught it when I use my glue eraser, probably more than I really have to. I've got just a little tiny piece sticking up here, and I'm going to take and trim that. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and I'm going to lay this to where it's covering my, I'm not going to glue it down. I just want it to cover this little piece just a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a pencil and I'm just going to draw a real light thin line down here. I don't know if you can see it. It's right here. Don't mind my band-aid. I cut my finger today, of all days, or my thumb. But I drew a line down here, and that's going to show me how far over I might want to take my pumpkin when I put this on. I'm not too worried about how far up or down I go. I can eyeball that. So let's take our pumpkin, and we're going to use Versamark because we're going to emboss. So So let's ink that up really, really good. I like to get a good inking with my Versamark when I'm using embossing powder. So I'm just going to bring this over, and I forgot to straighten that up. Let's straighten him up real quick. You know, you can always turn your block a little bit, but I hate doing that. I just don't get things straight. I need it straight on my block this way. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and stamp this. I'm going to hold that down really good because I want all that ink to transfer to my cardstock. And there we go. Okay, I'm going to bring in my copper embossing powder. That's what I used right here. Let's open this. And I use a coffee filter, works great. Because what I do is just pour that on, shake it, make sure I have that covered, and just tap right into the coffee filter. And then I'm going to, I always do this twice if I want it to look really, make sure I got everything when it's heavy. And I got a little bit, I didn't use an embossing buddy, because I always forget about those. So I try to make sure I got everything. Okay, now I just fold this up. Go ahead and pour that back into my container, and you don't have any mess. I'm not a coffee drinker, but I go to the dollar store and buy coffee filters for doing this. Okay, let's bring our heat gun in. And if you don't do a lot of heat embossing, let your gun heat up a little bit before you put it to your cardstock. So I let that get good and warm. Don't be doing this over that because you're not going to get the heat distributed well. Just kind of hold it down till you see it starting to turn. And you'll see it because your project will get glossy where you have the embossing powder. And once that happens, then just start turning it. And it'll get it all because you've got it good and hot. And that way it doesn't take you as long to get it done. Make sure that it's glossy all over, that you don't see any dull looking spots where the embossing powder hasn't turned. I'm going to just kind of cool this just for a second. And I'm going to use my eraser, and I'm going to erase this line. And I can just go right down, since that's dry, and erase it all the way through. And there you go. We don't have any line we have to worry about. Okay. These are great pencils. They're by Pilot. And they're retractable right here for your lead. And then they have a white eraser so that it's good for erasing, you know, when you're doing stamping rather than a pink eraser that kind of leaves a mark. Okay. Just a little tidbit there. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to take and I'm going to lay this back down here. And I'm not worried about where that line was because the line was just showing me to make sure my pumpkin's out far enough. So I'm going to line this up and make sure it's straight. Then I'm going to bring in my die cut and I'm going to use a Post-it note rather than painter's tape, only because I don't think it sticks really bad to your cardstock, and some painter's tape can. So I'm going to hold this down. I'm going to make sure that I got it flush here. Looks even. I'm going to bring this, my die cut here, and if you want to, you can hold your die cut here. You can slip this out, and you can see that it fits perfectly. That You know, I know it can make you nervous if you don't, you want to see that. But as you can see, I'm just holding on to it, and I'm going to line this all back up. And then I'm going to take my Post-it note, and I'm just going to lay it right here to hold my die in place. Then I'm going to lift that up, and I'm going to die cut it. So let's bring in the die cutting machine. I'm sorry, I'm bending over to get my die cutting machine. Goodness, goodness. Okay, let's put this down. And because I'm going to be going through a couple layers of cardstock, I'm going to put it through a couple of times. If you lay this at an angle, it's easier on your blade, on your roller that you're rolling through, and you won't hear those big clunks as bad. But a lot of times you don't have that extra room in there to do that, so you have to. So I'm just going to roll back and forth. I'll go through one more time. Okay. I'm not going to move the die cutting machine because we're going to use it here in just a second again. So let's take this off, take this out, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull. It looks like it's cut. You know, you want to make sure that that's done. And my die, this is a sticky note. So there I have that cut out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these 3 plates away. We won't need them. And I'm going to get my embossing plate out. Let's stick this in here. We're going to take our embossing folder. I can't do anything with this thumb. Goodness. I'm going to lay this in here, and we're going to emboss, okay? So that's going to go down. It's a 3D embossing folder. Then we're going to put this embossing plate over top, and it'll roll right through. There we go. And we only have to roll that through one time. Okay, now we can move that out of the way. All this stuff we have to use to make one card. It's amazing, isn't it? What we do. Okay. On this card right here, I glued this flat because I have all this popped out on. But on the card that I'm doing now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the dimensionals on here and pop it up so you can see the difference. The only thing is when you do this, you want to use quite a few dimensionals because you want this part here to lay down. So I use quite a few dimensionals around it, around that part. And then I'm going to, I just want this held up really, really good. Okay, there we go. That's a lot, isn't it? So what we're going to do is we're going to take us all day just to take the papers off. My goodness. So you've probably seen this technique before. I just have never shown it, and that's why I'm showing it. It's been out on, if you go to Pinterest and that a lot, it's out there. It's even, I think there's some YouTube videos on it. So what I'm going to do now is I want to line up my die cutting part with my, where that is. But I also have to line up my top and bottom. So I have to do it this way. And get this part in and then hope that everything else kind of fits in it. Getting it in and getting it straight, it's two different things, right? Okay, I'm going to trim this down here. Trim, trim, trim. And it really doesn't matter because that paper is flush with the bottom anyway. So there's my trimming done. That's on there, nice and straight. So now what we're going to do is I am going to take, for the inside of my card, I'm going to take the same pumpkin, but I'm going to take the early espresso ink, and I am going to stamp that pumpkin. Let's bring in a piece of scrap paper. Don't mind my scrap paper. It's the end of the month. Everything's kind of dirty. I change it at the first of the month, or try to. So I'm going to ink this up. Make sure I got it all inked really good. And then I'm just going to stamp off in the corner. Right there. And that's my pumpkin for the inside of my card. And I'm going to take this piece of paper. This is 1 inch by 3.5 inch. And I'm going to do the saying gather together. And this has such a wide extra rubber around it. Just make sure that you barely put it on your stamp pad and just move it. Don't push into it so you don't get ink around here, so you know, because then you could have a shadow on your card, on your piece that you're stamping. I leave a little bit of room over here for my bow, and I'm going to stamp right here. There we go. I love the font on that. I think it's very pretty. I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut a little flag right here. So I just go up the center and then go in from each side. And cut a flag. Okay, this part also is going to get used with the dimensionals and put on the front. So what I'm going to do is find my dimensionals. I just laid over here. And I'm going to put this at the lower part because of this standing up right here. I'm not going to put any towards the top. Not that it will show, but I just don't want it on that part of the pumpkin because it would bring it down a little bit. We want it all to stand up. So what I'm going to do is, you know what, I'm going to go get some of that. Before I do that, I think I'm going to go get some kind of thread or something to put on there like I have on here, just to make it more, I don't know, I just like it on there. So let me go get a piece real quick. Okay, I didn't have any more over there laying that I could get too fast, so I'm going to use some of the jute twine. And when you're using this, if you're take however much you're going to cut, and because it's on that spool, just run your finger and it'll kind of straighten out on you so that it's not so curly. So you can get that nice and straight. If you can see the difference now, it's pretty straight. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this, I'm going to leave a little tail here, and I'm going to wrap it around my fingers. Just like that. Then I'm going to put this in the front, and what I'm going to do here is because I wasn't going to do this, and now I did. I'm going to lay it right here, and I'm going to take a piece of Scotch tape, and it's going to lay over part of my dimensionals, but that's okay because they're still sticky there. And I'm going to put that on, and it's going to make it a little bit more country looking. And then we'll just put this on. Like that. I'm going to trim these edges just to get the, there we go. Gives it a little bit more country look. If you can see the difference. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this Early Espresso ribbon, and I thought it looked really thick when I got it, but I tell you what, it makes nice bows. It's really easy to work with, except for probably with my crazy thumb. I think I'll get it. I was at our food pantry at church today. We got in 1,800 pounds of food. I had help, but we put away food, and I was slicing boxes open, and see, I almost lost my bow because that Band-Aid, I couldn't feel it. And I just was slicing a box open, and I just continued to slice my thumb open too. Wasn't a very smart thing to do, but hey, my husband said he was glad he said I went a lot longer than he thought I would. I'm not the best with knives. Sometimes I get all carried away. Okay, let's move all this out of our way now. We got a mess. You can't see what we're doing. I don't like that. Okay, let's put this bow on. And what I do when I put my bows on is I take and put a glue dot just on the knot, but to the side of the knot on each side. If you here, and I will show you what I mean. And that kind of holds up your bow down so it doesn't come. See how I have two, and it's kind of over on your bow so that they don't slide and come untied. So I'm going to turn that, and I'm just going to lay that right here. Press hard. So you make sure you have it down. Let's open our card, and we're going to put this on the inside, and that's going to be our card today. Very easy. You can do it with any kind of die cut. You can do it in a portrait orientation, or you can do landscape. You can do either way. You don't have to worry about that. I do want to tell you I'll show you my pumpkin card. I did a couple things a little different because of coloring. I went ahead and cut another piece because I used a 5.5 by 8.5 inch card base folded in half. Then I cut a 5 1/4 by 4 inch piece. So I cut this down just a little bit in length, and went from there as I did it. And then I actually used some dimensionals and put that up on my card so that they would have a little bit more dimension. But you can do anything you want with these. In your die cuts, just make your mark so you know where you want to put your how far out away from the side you want to put your stamp, so that you'll have room to see it above the die in both places. And also, if you're doing embossing like I did, cut out your die first before you emboss, because if you emboss first, then you run that through the die cut machine to do your die cutting, it'll smash all your embossing. It'll make it flat, so you won't be able to see it that well. So you want to run it through the embossing folder last, okay? That is the tips I can give you. Here's the difference in the cards with the gold and the jute. You can do them either way. Gives us a little bit more of a country look. This one has a little bit more of that gold, I don't want to say fancy look. It's not fancy, but it's just gives it a bolder look, I think. So that is the cards. I hope you enjoyed them, and I will be back with another video next week for you guys. And you all have a great night and a great day. I said night because I'm doing this at night. But whatever time of day it is, you have a great one. Talk to you later. Bye.